Wagons, horses, and their riders raced across the plains in the hopes of staking a claim that would allow them to homestead a farm of their very own. Hopeful homesteaders gathered from all across the country, particularly from Kansas and Missouri, as each family fought to claim a plot of land before their competitors snatched it from their grasp. The Oklahoma land rush marked a poignant time in American history, where some were violently removed from their lands, while others were given the opportunity of a lifetime. One thing is certain: excitement was high and the atmosphere was tense, as each individual competed against all the others for a chance at winning the race of their life. These pictures leave a powerful reminder of the races long past. While this picture seems to depict a similar scene as the former images, there seems to be something a little different. Sunglasses. That's it. If you look closely, you will notice that every one of these racers are wearing sunglasses. While the first images tell a story from our history, this picture shows that the races are still alive and kicking. I first heard about the National Championship chuck wagon races when I was 17 years old. My father owned several horses, and we really enjoyed trail riding together on the weekends. One balmy spring afternoon, my dad called me to invite me to go with him and my grandfather to the chuck wagon races. I politely declined the invitation. After all, I was 17. I had many more important things to do. It wouldn't take me long to regret that decision. The first time my father went to the races, he went for 2 days and 1 night. My brother went along with him, and boy did I hear about it when they got back. They were both faunching at the bit to relate all the exciting tales they had to share with me regarding the unbelievable things they had seen at the races. I asked to see pictures of this incredible vacation that I had so casually declined. And of course, they hadn't brought back one. Periodically throughout the next year, I would glance at the calendar to see how much longer until the next Labor Day weekend, when I would have a second chance at being a part of this coveted adventure. Labor Day weekend 2011 marked my 10-year anniversary attending the weekend festivities on the Bar Oak Ranch. It never ceases to amaze me the renewed excitement, fun, and nostalgia for the past that seem to intensify every time I pass through the gate that leads to this legendary racetrack. The race for available lands to homestead is long over. However, the spirit of the races still lives through the efforts of one man. Over 20 years ago, Dan Oaf started the races by simply inviting some friends over for a friendly competition between 8 wagon owners as a tip of the hat to the brave men and women that went head to head in the land lotteries that would determine whether or not the American dream would become a reality for them. Much to the family's surprise, over 100 people showed up that first year on the family-owned Bar Oak Ranch, and the next year boasted over 500 competitors and spectators. And every year these friendly races have grown until the most recent race in 2011 revealed a grand total of over 20,000 competitors and spectators and almost 10,000 horses. On the opening day of the races, horses and riders congregated at the bottom of the cliffs that overlook the racetrack. It is truly an incredible sight to see, and an even more incredible event to be a part of. Last year, we squeezed over 3,000 people and almost 2,500 horses into one photograph. When the races first started, they were a one-day event. Now, events leading up to the races start almost 2 weeks before the first gunshot marks the official beginning of the competition. As much as I would love to camp out on the beloved Bar Oak Ranch, 2 weeks is just too long to be gone from school and work. Usually, my best friend Cassie Houlihan, aka Hot Lips, and I end up heading down on Thursday. This race was a little different. I was at the very beginning of my first semester of teaching writing, so I had to pack up my bags load the car, and then go straight to work Friday morning. By the time I got to the ranch in Arkansas, it was after 11 p.m. Putting the tent up in the dark was certainly a challenge. Events on the Bar Oak Ranch last over a week, with the actual chuck wagon races held over Labor Day weekend every year. Whether you're a spectator or a competitor, there's always a lot to do in preparation. This is a family-friendly event during the day and a fun-filled evening for the adults at night. Kids and parents alike spend days, like myself, preparing for this retro-style vacation by packing our clothes, taking care of the animals at home, and preparing for the trek to the famous Bar Oak Ranch in Clinton, Arkansas. Now, families like my best friend Cassie spend weeks, sometimes even months, getting ready for this event. In order to get into the spirit of the races, many people choose to host pre-race activities at home prior to leaving. Good old-fashioned barn dances are a great way to warm up for this event. Last year, a couple of weeks before the races, I attended my very own barn dance to get into the spirit of the holiday season, and I certainly did kick up my heels with the best of them. Now, there are several things that strike me immediately every year when I arrive on the ranch. There are people riding horses all over, and the dress of choice is definitely boots, jeans, and cowboy hats. And we really never know what else we might come across. It gets quite hot in Arkansas as August draws to a close, and many like to find ways to cool off. Swimming pools are a great way to do this. This was the scene we came upon last year as we rode through the maze of an impromptu campground on the pastures of the ranch. These cowboys let us know just how brilliant an idea it was to bring a pool to set up at camp. Brilliant, that is, until a horse got loose, ran rampant through the campgrounds, and ended up popping the side of the pool. No worries, they said. The shallower the pool, the less likelihood of drowning. Safety first at the races. The races can be overwhelming at times, but luckily, there are always plenty of friendly racegoers prepared to help you out in any way they can, like our newfound friend, the head of the local department of the Chick Police. On race days, meals become an adventure, all on their own. During the races, it's really too hot to worry about cooking anything, so we usually just head to the cliff tops to buy some fresh squeezed lemonade from the vendors. Now, the most convenient way that we've found to cook in the evening in all our 10 years of race going is to bring a Dutch oven. Before we leave for the races every morning, we would assemble a Dutch oven full of veggies and meat, start the charcoal, and then leave the food to simmer while we watch the races. The charcoal heats the food until it burns out, and then the food is ready to eat when we get back. Last year, we ventured out of our normal routine and left the Dutch oven in the trailer, and relied on a propane grill to cook. Unfortunately for us, Hot Lips and I tried for an hour to get the grill going. We then shanghaied any passers-by into stopping and coming to our assistance. But, alas, the pesky grill never did cooperate. Finally, sandwiches were assembled at 9 o'clock. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of race days, 12 o'clock in the afternoon is the time that everyone saddles up and heads to the top of the ridge to watch the races. Now, the races don't actually start until 1, but waiting until 1 o'clock is never a good idea. The pre-show is always a sight to see, with horse and rider drill teams, the national anthem, and the parade of athletes. Once the races start, outriders are one of our favorite things to watch during the race. It's not always easy to hold your horse still while a gunshot fires through the cliffs, and then try to get on as your horse races off in the opposite direction. Once an outrider finally mounts his horse, he then has to catch up to the wagon and pass it before the horse-drawn wagon in order to have a qualifying time. And keep in mind, fast is never fast enough. While this Labor Day event is mainly focused on the chuck wagon races themselves, there are endless opportunities for watching other events, like the bareback bronc riding, the toilsome Snowy River race, based on the popular Western movies filmed in Australia, which all take place between the different chuckwagon events. Now, the races usually finish around 4 o'clock, and last year, after the races were over on Saturday, we headed back to the campsite to gather our shower bags and jump in the water. After the showers, we went back to cook again. Not our most successful venture at a cook stove, but thank goodness for bologna sandwiches. After dinner, it was time to throw on a little makeup and get ready for the concert and dance down at Buffalo Rock. Thousands of people gathered around the outdoor stage to share music, drink, and dancing. One thing to keep in mind is that campers are asked to leave their vehicles at the campsite after 9 p.m. So the only way to get to the festivities is a 45-minute walk or a 20-minute horseback/wagon ride. Luckily, we hitched a ride on one of the wagons, headed to the dance. The music and dancing wrapped up around 1 o'clock in the morning last year, but that wasn't enough to force everyone to call it a night. Many gatherings sprung up throughout the campgrounds with people playing guitars, singing, and even a few small bands playing on flatbed trailers. It was after 4 o'clock in the morning before we finally crawled into our tents and laid down to get some shut-eye. In one day, we had gone on a 6-mile trail ride, watched the races, had a cooking adventure, listened to live music, and danced the night away. At 9 a.m., it was time to get up and start all over again. The races in Clinton, Arkansas are truly a one-of-a-kind experience. Every year we are drawn back to the famous Bar Oak Ranch to be a part of not only the fun, but history in the making. The 2.5-hour car ride home is always one of the most rewarding experiences of the vacation. For the first half hour, we relive some of the most memorable experiences from our trip. But finally, the conversation begins to die off as we gaze out the windows at the sparsely populated ranches in Clinton and think about the time in our history that the races are modeled after. While we may never be involved in a race like the Oklahoma Land Rush, that many of our ancestors rode in to have the opportunity to live their own American dream, we are always reminded when we leave Clinton that it is not the race itself that is so inspiring, but the courage and drive of the racers, just like those long gone, that leave us in awe. So, if you find yourself with nothing to do this coming Labor Day weekend, trek on down to Clinton, Arkansas, and be a part of history in the making.